Tennessee travels on the road to Columbus to take on Ohio State. I thought that Tennessee was going to end up playing Ohio State at home. I was really shocked to see that Ohio State got this home game, and I wonder how fast of a start Ohio State is going to get out to in this game, because a popular talking point about this matchup has been if Ohio State starts slow out the gate, is their fan base going to turn on them? Because, they just lost to Michigan, and losing to Michigan is a really deflating loss, because that game for Ohio State and Michigan is like their Super Bowl. And it's crazy how the narrative has flipped for both programs ever since that game, because before it got played, a lot of Michigan fans were not feeling that great about Sharon Moore and his future being a head coach of that program. And Ryan Day, you felt like Ohio State was destined to be in a national championship. But ever since that game happened, the narrative has flipped. People feel much more optimistic about about Sharon Moore. And a lot of people feel like Ryan Day could be coaching for his job in these playoffs, which sounds insane to say, but this is a Tennessee team that really should terrify Ohio State, because their biggest weakness is their lack of consistency up front. They got injuries there. You're losing one of your best offensive linemen. Your center also is out as well. And Tennessee has one of the best defensive lines in college football. We all know about James Pierce Jr., but they got a really good secondary, really good linebackers, and they've been one of the 5 best defenses in the nation. But Ohio State also has a really good defensive line. Everybody knows about James Pierce Jr., but Jack Sawyer, JTT, Talik Williams, all 3 of those guys are starters on the D-line for Ohio State, and they are going to be high draft picks in next year's NFL draft. So much is made about how good Tennessee's defensive line is, but Ohio State's defensive line is just as good. But what's going to win and lose this game for both teams is going to be the quarterback play. Because to me, Nico Iamaleava, I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm not trying to offend any of you Tennessee fans, but let's just be honest about this dude. I don't think he's good enough to win this game, because he has struggled all year on the road against this year. Prior to playing against Vanderbilt, when he threw 4 touchdowns in that game, he only had 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in all of Tennessee's road games combined this year. He didn't look that hot against Oklahoma. He threw no touchdowns against Arkansas when you lost that game, and when you lost on the road in Athens to Georgia. And I don't see you being able to beat Ohio State by just running the football all game long with Dylan Sampson. Now, Tennessee fans are going to say, well, JT, they lost to Michigan, and Michigan's quarterback sucks. You mean to tell me that you don't think that Nico Iamaleava is better than Davis Warren? Yes, Nico's better than Davis Warren, but you're not Michigan. The way that Michigan is built is not the same way that you're built. Michigan has a better offensive line than what you have. As a matter of fact, Ohio State's offensive line has been just as questionable as what your offensive line has been. I don't know why not a lot of people are talking about the troubles that Tennessee has had up front, but their offensive line is 78th in the nation in sacks per game allowed, or 74th, excuse me. The interior guard play that they've gotten out of their offensive line unit hasn't been that good. Tennessee's offensive line kind of has the same issues that Ohio State has. Everybody just wants to make it seem like Ohio State is coming into this game and their interior issues up front are going to get exposed, when Ohio State's defensive line can expose the flaws that Tennessee has on their offensive line, which is why I can't see Dylan Sampson carrying Tennessee to a win in this game. I'm still expecting him to have a good game where he rushes for over 100 yards, maybe has a touchdown or 2. But if you're going to beat Ohio State, Nico Iamaleava has to be able to have the best game of the season against this Buckeyes defense. Will Howard, he's already been battle tested. He had a pretty good game against Penn State. Is Will Howard an elite quarterback? No, but nobody's saying that. But with the talent that Will Howard has around him, with the Emeka Egbuka, Jeremiah Smith, and Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson in the backfield, along with Chip Kelly calling the plays, he has enough around him that should be able to help elevate him. Remember, Georgia won back-to-back national titles with a walk-on quarterback. Some of y'all may have already forgot who he was, but Stetson Bennett. You feel me? So if Georgia can win with a guy like Stetson Bennett, then Ohio State is more than capable of being able to win a game like this with Will Howard at quarterback. The gap between Nico Iamaleava and Will Howard is not really wide at all. As a matter of fact, they both are on the same level if you ask me. If you were to ask me who would I rather have, Nico or Will Howard, I say, does it really matter? I don't really think neither one has really been all that great. They've been kind of like average to slightly above average at times. But Ohio State, from a personnel standpoint, they got more talent on the perimeter than what Tennessee has. Now, Tennessee has some really good receivers, but they don't have a guy that looks like he was built out of a football factory like Jeremiah Smith. This dude is a true freshman, only 18 years old, and yet he has the body build of a freaking running back. And I wonder if Tennessee has the corners that can match up well with Ohio State's wideouts, because Ohio State, this doesn't have to be a game that comes down to them being able to be more physical, being able to impose their will on the ground. Ohio State can win this game by airing it out on Tennessee's secondary. Now, of course, they may not have a lot of time to do that due to their offensive line inefficiencies and how good Tennessee's pass rush is, but that's Ohio State's style. I never felt like Ohio State has been a team that has been built to beat you on the ground. As a matter of fact, that kind of has been a little bit of their weakness. They've been at their best when they've been able to get the vertical passing game going, and they can get those big plays in the deep passing game to Buka and Jeremiah Smith. That's how Ohio State can win this game. If Tennessee's going to win this game, it's going to be off the shoulders of Dylan Sampson and Nico Iamaleava having to have a big game. And that's something that I just don't know Nico is going to be able to do, just with him being so young into his career. Going on the road in a playoff environment like this one is going to be unprecedented territory for a guy like Nico. And I think that you're asking a lot to tell him that, hey, we need you to throw for 3-4 touchdowns against a Jim Knowles coach defense. As good as how Tennessee's defense has been all year long, Ohio State's defense has been just as good. Now, Ohio State is a favorite in this game, and I do like them to cover, and I do like them to win outright, because just with Nico being so young, I just think that it's so hard to win in Columbus. I think that if he doesn't get out to a fast start early, then it's going to be tough sledding for Tennessee. Now, their defense is going to keep them around in this game. I'm not expecting this to be a blowout, but I do see Ohio State being able to generate more explosive plays than what Tennessee is going to be able to do. And that's something that has hindered Tennessee's offense, is that they haven't really gotten as many explosive passing plays as what you've been accustomed to seeing out of a Josh Heupel-led offense. Normally, when you think Tennessee, the last thing you think is them being a run-first team. For the last couple of years, we've always viewed Tennessee as a team that just likes to sling the football all over the field, to throwing the football 40, 50 times a game. You know, when I think Tennessee, I still think of Hendon Hooker at quarterback. I still think of that 2022 Tennessee Vol squad. But they're a far cry from that. They're more physical, and they put more dependence on the run game than what I think they would like to, just because they haven't really been able to get the production that is needed out of a guy like Nico to win a game like this. And if Nico is ever going to be able to show up when it matters the most, it has to be in this game, because you're not going to be able to win this thing just asking Dylan Sampson to run it 30, 40 times. You are not Michigan. Michigan is Ohio State's biggest rival. They play them every single year. They know Ohio State better than what you do. I don't know when it's the last time you played Ohio State. And the last time you played a team that remotely resembles what Ohio State is, it was Georgia. And Georgia's offense had issues on the offensive line, and their quarterback play wasn't that great. And you lost that game. And you lost on the road to Arkansas. Tennessee has not been as good on the road this year as what they've been at home. When they play at home, they're unbeatable. But this game is being played in Columbus. And Ryan Day, You can say all you want to about him being overrated, not being that good as a head coach, but the only team that has had his number has been Michigan. Everybody else, he's able to beat. And this is a game where he has to come out here and prove himself and prove that I actually have what it takes to win a national championship at Ohio State. I'm not just somebody that just inherited the program on third base and I've been coasting off the coattails of what Urban Meyer built. And I really believe that Ohio State and Ryan Day are going to come out and they're going to remind everybody that they are one of the best teams in college football and they have just as good as a shot as anybody else to win it all. I see Tennessee losing this game. 17-27 is going to be my final score prediction in this game. I see Tennessee being able to keep this a close game for most of the ball game, but the last closing minutes is when I think Ohio State starts to separate themselves. They have a better roster, and from a quarterback standpoint, I would trust Will Howard a little bit more than I trust Nico, only because of the experience factor. He's been a starter for multiple years. Nico Iamaleava, he's only started for 1 year, and that's why I think Nico has struggled on the road this year. It's a lot when you're asking a guy like Nico in an offense like this that you mostly consider to be an air raid offense when you're just throwing the football all over the field, and he hasn't really been able to be the quarterback that Tennessee needs to run this offense to its full potential. Because when Tennessee's offense is at its best, they're killing you with the deep shots downfield, and they're also able to kill you on the ground. But this year, they've been so one-dimensional is that if you take away the ground game from Tennessee and you force them to have to win by relying on Nico Iamaleava to do it with his arm, I don't know if he can be trusted with him being so young in a hostile environment like this. Ohio State, they can still win this game if the ground game isn't there just because of the talent that is around Will Howard. Tennessee doesn't have a Jeremiah Smith or a Emeka Egbuka. They do have some really good receivers, but none of the receivers that they have are as good as what Ohio State has. And the supporting cast that is around Will Howard is good enough to carry him, along with that defense. And the supporting cast that Tennessee has, isn't as good as Ohio State's. So that's why I like the Buckeyes in this game.